All right, good afternoon, everybody. Today we have Genentech and a panel of engineers to talk about career in engineering. But let's do a check-in so that your teacher knows that you are here. And if you have a question, this is a great questions document that you can reference to. And the evaluation form, this is how we track your attendance and give you credit. If the QR code doesn't work, we will have the bit.ly link and the actual link put on the chat. Be fully present, pay attention, participate, ask questions. This is a good time to ask your questions on where to go to college, what courses to take, and you can turn on your camera if you want. And then again, submit your evaluation right after this event. So every knowledge is still fresh. And that is it for me. Let's have the engineers at Genentech.
Hi everyone. Can everybody see the shared screen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, again, hi everyone. I'd like to introduce myself first. My name is Orlando Gonzalez, and I am a validation engineer at Genentech. Whoops, sorry. Started on the wrong slide. All right. So a brief history about Genentech is considered one of the founding companies or the founding company of biotech world, and it was started back in like around the 70s. And it focuses on pursuing groundbreaking science to discover and develop medicines for people with serious and life-threatening diseases. One of the discoveries include the first targeted antibody for cancer and the first medicine for primary progressive multiple sclerosis. And the goal that we have for this meeting, what we hope you can take away from this is that we hope that we can inspire you into pursuing STEM, and that we can spark your curiosity with it. With that, I'll go into the intros and introduce the rest of the team, beginning with Irina.
Hi, I'm Rita Fox. I am a plant engineer over at our Hillsborough site. And a little bit about my background. I started I grew up in California, and that's also where I went to school. I did a bioengineering degree at University of California, Berkeley. And the curriculum that I had in college, actually, I didn't use for, I'd say, the first 7 years of my career. And I've since actually, in the role I'm taking now, I've gone back into some of the science courses that I took back in college. So just an idea that like the courses you take, you don't know when they'll pop up later in your life. So a couple things about me. I really like to ask a lot of questions, always curious. That's brought me through my whole career in learning and really wanting to understand things and solve problems. And then also the people element of things is something I really enjoy around, kind of working together to solve problems. I don't solve problems by myself. So kind of some of these photos are a little bit about the projects I've been working on. One of the most fun things I ever had to do was bring in a giant crane to lift one of our pieces of equipment through the roof hatch of a 6-story building. So that was one of my more fun projects. And then some of the things below, I love my dogs. I spend a lot of time with them. There's a picture there of us doing some urban mushing with my dogs. And yeah, just really been enjoying my time here in Oregon. I've been around here for about 3 years.
Hey everyone, my name is Dongo Huma. I am a validation engineer here at Genentech. Been here at Hillsborough site for, I just celebrated my 10th year here last month. I went to college out east, so I am a transplant as well. Prior to that, I grew up in Senegal, and some of these pictures reflect that. I went to a military academy in Senegal. I participated in some drama. Had some experience in that area, and I think I decided to be a stand-up comedian at one point in my life. But I pursued biomedical engineering. True story is I was hesitating between pursuing a career as a physician, but I had a lot of curiosity around fixing and building things. So I sort of figured that something in the middle might fit me best. So I went to City University of New York, City College of New York as part of the City University of New York. I graduated and I started working at Merck & Company vaccine manufacturing plant out in West Point, Pennsylvania, and I, slowly found my way over to Oregon, and I guess I'm here to stay. I've been here 10 years. So my passions are around. I love to travel. I haven't done much of that recently. I think that I'm a decent cook, but I certainly love to cook. I have 3 kids who are always hungry, so that helps. And I love learning about history. One of my interesting topics is the Great War, and enjoy playing video games with my kids. And you can see them there. I spend a lot of time there. I also added some pictures to just kind of reflect the fact that we love to have fun at Genentech. We work hard, we also play hard. We do a lot of team bonding activities outside. Specifically here, we were checking out the aerial park at Community Lodge and Top Golf, a couple of the pictures that you can see here. I'd love to talk to you more about opportunities at Genentech and why STEM is so important.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Hoyt, and I started off my STEM career at Genentech doing the manufacturing technician. So I work with the equipment that has the drug supply product. And the story of how I got into Genentech was actually outside of the STEM studies through high school and middle school for me. I didn't study it in college either until I went to the Portland Community College. And at the community college, they have a program with the local company, Genentech, and that's where I was able to study at the program and receive a certificate as a bioscience technician. And with this certificate and the school program, I was able to tour the facility and also land an interview, and then getting the job was my job. So that was really good and fun experience for me. I've been here 2 years now at Genentech. Before I went to Genentech, I grew up around science. I have a picture of my dad in the photo. We went hiking at Silver Falls, and then he's had a lab, so I've gotten to work in his lab. But I never really found my STEM career until after being in the workforce for 5 years. And then there was a neat video I saw about Herb Boyer, who's one of the founders of Genentech, and how they used E. coli to start manufacturing drug supplies. I thought it was fascinating. I used to work at other factories, and knowing that these cells, these little tiny cells, do all the hard work, that was fascinating. And that's when I joined this community college, and they have a really good program. You can see a couple photos of me in their science lab with a pipetter, and then that's me getting some of the E. coli samples on the Petri dish. And then we also went to a bioscience event, like a trade show. And it was a great experience because it allowed me to understand what happens at Genentech. And we had several people come and interview and kind of showcase what Genentech does in the facility here at Hillsborough. Besides the sciences, I love guitar, and I love hockey and ice hockey. And I also play soccer with a couple of people from the validation team at Genentech. And Orlando's actually on the team, and he did pretty good this week. So that's enough about me. Just wanted to share with you that I took a little different path from the STEM, but it's I realized that I like the sciences and engineering, and I managed to get this cool job at Genentech working with the drug products.
Thank you everyone for sharing. With that, we're gonna move on to the next section where Irina is gonna tell you a little bit more about Genentech.
Thank you, Orlando. I don't know if you guys are comfortable just speaking up or raising your hands or anything, but I'm curious to know, does anyone already know about Genentech? Do you guys know anything about it? Have you heard about it? I hear a
Feel free to
yes.
throw any
Or chat, yeah, that
comments
works too.
in the chat.
I see yes, I see not really.
I see a yes, definitely. So here's a couple facts. As already kind of mentioned, we've been around since 1976. We really are one of the founders or the creators of the biotechnology field. Really revolutionary in the technologies that we've employed over the years. We're headquartered out of South San Francisco, California. We have several sites around the US, and the Hillsborough site is one of the most key to our drug product manufacturing in North America. So it's really a crucial site in the network for us over here at Hillsborough. And Genentech is also associated with Roche. We're actually a part of the Roche group, which is a Swiss company. So Roche and Genentech are one and the same. And we're also the headquarters for Roche within the US. We have about 45 medicines approved. Again, we go into really some serious life-threatening diseases in areas such as oncology, neurology. We'll get into some of the other types of products we approach. And then a unique thing with Genentech too is that we put back a lot into our own research. We really try to follow the science and make impact for people and for patients. So we have about 30 potential new medicines in our what we call the pipeline, and it's essentially just scientists, research and development, clinical trials, things that take years. We have a lot of things kind of in the works that we're going out into the world with. And then I mentioned a little bit about the Hillsborough campus being a key site for the network within North America. We have 5 main buildings that fill and ship out kind of bulk medicines and fill things into vials. We'll have a little bit more detail on the process as well. We also have a couple of new buildings since the last couple of years. We're focusing a little bit more on individualized therapies, cancer vaccines, and we also have some really neat sustainable buildings for some of our office spaces. And with that, I think, Don, were you going to take this?
Yeah, I can cover that. So as Irina just pointed out, our pipeline of products is really strong at Genentech. We try to follow the science, and this means that we are able to really bring groundbreaking medicine in various areas of therapeutic need, from immunology, ophthalmology, infectious diseases, neuroscience, oncology, and metabolism. And because of our focus on science and the strong pipeline that we have, that we're always developing products and pursuing different indications for the products that we already have approved by the FDA. We're able to support, things such as most recently the COVID pandemic. We were able to actually fill a couple of emergency use medicines out of the Hillsborough campus. One of them being was actually well known and quite in the news was Regeneron. Our partnership with the Regeneron company brought some RNA medicine to help seriously sick COVID patients. There was also something called Actemra, which was a previously available Genentech product. we Roche product that we were able to bring to HTO in a very short amount of time and get to patients who are in it. And what happened at the time was that in Asia, they are seeing that this product, which is normally prescribed for arthritis and other types of respiratory illnesses, was actually reducing inflammation in COVID patients. So they approached SGO to actually fill this, to not only bring it to the US market, but also reduce the pressure on the demand on that particular product. So, and we've since been approved to continue filling that product here, which just tells you that rigorous and groundbreaking science is at the heart of what we do here at Genentech, and it highlights the R&D activities that we do, applying excellent science to discover and develop potential new medicines, with the goal of becoming the first in class in all these therapeutic areas. Next slide. The work that we do also goes beyond science. Genentech, one of the things that makes me really proud working for this company is a way that we're focused on positively impacting our community. We do a lot of work in the community, whether it's in the DEI space or it's just supporting organizations that do good work. We have here, you can see Blaze from the Portland Blazers. We had a 10-year partnership with the Blazers called Black Heart Cancer, where anytime a Blazers player made a block, Genentech would donate money towards the Black Heart Cancer cause. So we champion environmental sustainability, community, and our people. As was just pointed out, some of the buildings that were newly built were centered around the idea of sustainability. And right now, as I'm speaking, we're actually doing some improvements to our existing facilities, to ensure that we can use solar energy. And also, so not only does it help us create more sustainable, but also gives us a little bit more independence in generating and maintaining our own power supply. The work that we do brings us together to do something that's bigger than all of us. It's our employees who make this happen, and we strive to make every day better. Part of what everyone does is not only being on panels like this, but really encouraging employees to work in their communities. Genentech has a lot of programs through Benefit and matching programs to ensure that we can volunteer hours as employees and support organizations that are near and dear to us by matching donation that we make, or even if you volunteer, Genentech will compensate that volunteer time for money that you're going to use towards a donation to an organization that you care about. Next slide. So these are just a few more examples of work that we do in our community. I already mentioned Blaze. The picture in the middle is a work that we did, one of our ERG teams, which we call Diversity Network Association. It's called Medley, of which I actually am the chair. We partner with a food donation program, and our employees volunteer sometime to support. We also work with the Oregon Food Network. And picture at the bottom is we partner with the Cascades AIDS Project, and we have a annual walk in Portland supporting the Cascades AIDS Project towards making AIDS history. We also partner with Relay for Life to fight cancer, and there's also an annual walk that we do at the Hillsborough Hop Stadium to support this cause. And we organize an annual golf tournament that is geared towards raising money towards for cancer research. Obviously, a lot of these events have been a little bit more challenging to organize over the past couple of years, but we've continued to support these efforts by going virtual. So, the AIDS Walk, for example, was a virtual walk last year. So we will find creative ways to continue doing the work that is very important to us and really does extend beyond just the science. Come on, Orlando. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, additional slides around how we partner, and exemplary of this moment is really our focus on attracting, retaining, and training and retaining a strong pipeline of talent. The work in behind Alex, there's a post that says we make it possible, right? The work that we do, whether it's in the community or it's in the groundbreaking science and bringing medicines to patients, like life-saving medicines, life-altering medicines, it is the people that do it and make it so. We work towards supporting our communities and encouraging development in the STEM area. Students such as yourself with programs such as Future Lab. Our parent company, Roche, is one of the most sustainable healthcare companies according to the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. We've been on that for years running. And we have a list of directives that we call the K directives that really focus around our, safety, sustainability, and how we impact our environment. So this is all work that, Genentech emphasizes in addition to ability to support patients. Next slide. So as so far we've talked about in perhaps generic terms about the work that we do, and to put it simply, when you go to a doctor, and you're getting an injection, whether it's a drug or a vaccine, often it comes in a vial, in a liquid vial, IV or drug injection. And we at HTO fill product into those vials. So we receive them from some of our sister sites in Northern and Southern California or from Europe. And we will thaw it here. We will do something we call formulation, which is just to compound it. And we will fill it into these vials and stop and cap it and ship them out to either hospitals or directly to patients. And this is the drug that will actually improve and save lives according to the therapeutic areas that I mentioned earlier. So I don't know if any of you have checked out the science channel. They came out to Hillsborough and filmed us actually filling, doing the work that we do. They went to another site and came to us, and there was this video shows how we do the work that we do and how the product that we get from our sister sites winds up in the vials before it's shipped out, and how we, have these various levels of quality control to ensure that the product that we make is not only efficacious, but also safe and for the intended purpose. Go ahead, Orlando.
Biologic medicines are proteins produced inside living cells, which are mini factories generating the genetically engineered protein treatments. It's a different approach from traditional drugs, which are manufactured using chemical synthesis. Biologics offer hope where other therapies have failed. To mass produce these biologic medicines, scientists use the molecular machinery inside living cells. The process starts with the insertion of genetic material into Chinese hamster ovarian cells. They're known as CHO cells. They keep them frozen in liquid nitrogen until the next step. In the seed lab, a technician thaws the cells in warm water. He transfers them to a glass flask that contains growth media. The growth media is comprised of hundreds of nutrients, including vitamins and minerals. It's a recipe to help the cells multiply. A worker transfers the flask that contains the cells to the production side of the plant. The team injects the mixture into a 5-gallon capacity bioreactor. Inside, a propeller agitates the mixture to stimulate growth. Over a 3-week period, the number of cells increases exponentially. Each new cell is programmed to produce the target biologic protein. Next, a technician measures salts and other dry ingredients. He's preparing a recipe for purifying the protein liquid once it's been separated from the cells. He labels the bag and records the information separately, as required by government regulations. He adds the ingredients to purified water in a mixing tank. An automated system keeps tabs on the condition of the purification solution. After separating cellular material from the protein mixture, the team pumps it through steel and glass columns. Here, the purification solution works with resin beads to separate the protein from the impurities. Finally, this technician takes a sample and conducts a test to ensure the medicine is sterile. Grown in living cells, These biologic medicines are now on their way to potentially making a difference in people's lives.
That's a great video. There's one point in there that really resonates with me is a lot of our therapies are, bring hope to where other therapies and other medicines have failed. So, I always take that throughout my career at Genentech, I've really held patient and the patient impact that everyone's job at this company does really important to me. So that's really, I love that part of that video. So the area of focus that I have is something that's relatively new, and that's a new development within the Hillsborough site. And it's something that, just something to look forward to. I think there's going to be a lot of expansion in this type of field. And it's this idea of individualized therapies. You saw in the prior video where traditional biologics creates thousands and thousands of vials that can help so many patients and so many people out there. There's another way of manufacturing that's becoming more and more popular is where you're tailoring your medicine directly to the individual, to the patient. So you have a much smaller produce that medicine that you produce. So something that we do at Hillsborough here is very similar to vaccines almost. We basically create a product, a cellular genetic material using RNA and DNA, and we deliver that to an individual using an encapsulation method. It's called here a liposome. It's a kind of like a fatty bilayer to protect that genetic material as it goes into the patient and gets transferred to their cells. And what that does is it primes the immune system to go after cancer cells that have already been kind of going unnoticed by your own immune system, and essentially primes it almost like the COVID vaccine or other vaccines out there to use your own body's natural defenses to help target the cancer and fight the cancer. So I have just a short video here, or snippets of a video where we have technicians in the lab here at Hillsborough actually producing some of this technology. And you can kind of get a sense of the type of equipment that's being used around DNA, RNA, the lipoplex that I mentioned. So you'll be able to pick out some of those things.
The iNest process will undergo both drug substance and drug product manufacturing within the manufacturing space. We begin with our DNA template manufacturing area. In this space, we linearize, amplify, and purify our starting DNA material to generate the template for our patient-specific drug substance. Using our building-specific station clearance procedure, we are able to scale out our manufacturing process in a ballroom setting and safely produce multiple patient DNA templates within the same space. Entering our RNA manufacturing area, we see immunotherapy specialists loading our drug substance production robot in preparation for a run. There are many unique raw materials required to allow robust production of RNA. Each patient will have 2 strands of RNA produced on the robot through automated processes of in vitro transcription, purification, and finally elution. To enable quick turnaround and allow more real-time control of the process, both of the drug substance production areas contain all the necessary analytical equipment necessary to generate IPC data required to proceed with the process. Moving on to the first step in our drug product process, our lipoplex equipment is a first-generation formulation machine designed just for the iNest process. The new equipment utilizes single-use system technology to filter and precisely formulate our RNA with the liposomes to form our drug product nanoparticles. The drug product buffer is then added and mixed on the lipoplex to finish our formulation. The drug product moves on to the microcell vial filling machine. This commercial off-the-shelf system is a gloveless automated isolator that is capable of reproducibly filling and capping our small batch sizes of vials. After loading the Tyvek-covered tubs of vials and caps into the isolator, the chamber will undergo a vaporized hydrogen peroxide sanitation before the robot removes the covers and begins the filling procedure. Each vial will be capped using a unique press stopper and cap designed for filling systems such as these. The filled vials of drug product will then proceed to visual inspection. Here there is a 200% inspection performed by qualified immunotherapy specialists and their quality counterpart. Each vial will be viewed under light on both light and dark backgrounds to ensure that each vial is capped, intact, and free of defects to ensure that all AQL criteria are met. Vials that have passed the visual inspection process will move on to be manually labeled with final product labels.
I think this is a good place to pause. So we're going to go a little bit into, that was the manufacturing process, and now we're going to skip into the quality control aspect of things. On either type of pharmaceutical, quality control is really important to the, to ensure that we deliver quality patients to our medicine, quality medicine to our patients. So this shows some of the examples of the type of equipment that people are using and the procedures.
This first room here, Carolyn and Hillary are preparing PCR reagents. Next, we move into the PCR assay lab, where Jesse is adding samples to the PCR master mix. Here in the sequencing lab, Faye and Paula are setting up the genetic analyzer to sequence one of the DNA templates used in the manufacturing process. After the DNA template has been amplified multiple times, the DNA is loaded into the sequencer for analysis. Paula is now at the quantitative real-time PCR instrument, checking out her plate and the temperatures and times for the PCR reaction. This test quantifies residual DNA template left over from the manufacturing process. Over here at the gel imager, Faye is pulling up an image of a gel from an assay used to look at nucleases in raw materials. Over here in the microbiology lab, Nakia, Rorichi, and Pema are getting ready to perform multiple assays, including endotoxin testing. Leaving the microbiology lab, we come over into the main lab here, where Jesse is determining the particle size of the drug product. This assay looks at the size of the lipoplex, the combination of messenger RNA mixed with different lipids. In addition, the analysis looks at the zeta potential. Our final stop here is in the sterility lab, where Rorichi, Carolyn, and Hillary are setting up for a rapid sterility test.
Hello, and welcome to the heart of the
Thank you, Orlando, for manning that.
So with that, we are arriving to the question section. Does anybody have any? I see that there's been some stuff going on in the chat. So somebody asked, what was the use of the salt again? Does anybody want to take that question?
So I can take that. The use of the salts is particularly an early part in the process. That's actually what we call the production of the drug substance. In cell culture and in purifying the medicine, which we call the protein, in the early parts of the process, you tend to use a lot of different types of buffers. And by buffers, a lot of it is just water and salts. And those combinations help with purifying the protein in different ways. There's a process called chromatography separation that we use a variety of salt buffers to help bind or repel the protein of interest so that we can purify it even more. So that's a part of the drug process manufacturing that happens at other sites in the network. And kind of over that course of purification, they get purified out. So the final product does not have salts in them, but it's used in the manufacturing process.
And on that topic, I'm going to skip down to another question down here. It says, is the Hillsborough plant just a manufacturing plant for the drugs you produce, or is there a research and development section of the plant? Yeah, here at Hillsborough, we have two plants. We have the HIT and we have HTO. And the HTO is what we call a fill finish plant. And we receive the drug already made, and then we put it in vials and ship it out. But Irene, do you want to tell them more about HIT? And I don't know that much about HIT.
Yeah, definitely. HIT, to answer the question, I guess just broadly, the Hillsborough site is not a research and development site. Genentech Roche has its research development centers at South San Francisco, as well as in
Basel.
I think it is Basel, yeah, okay, somewhere in Europe. But anyway, it's not at the Hillsborough site. But that said, there's a lot of collaboration with the research team that's happening right now, both at HTO and at HIT. At HIT, we have a strong collaboration with the R&D team at South San Francisco, because what we're bringing to this site, to this location, is brand new. So we can't do it without that partnership with our R&D colleagues.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too. Basically the same point Irina is mentioning is that we not only, so we bring a lot of new products. We are also a launch site, which means that we produce products which have not, which are, recently approved or are in the process of being investigated by the FDA approval. And this includes, for example, the COVID medicines that I mentioned earlier, but also other, more established therapeutic areas that we've been supporting. So we are a clinical supply site, for example. So clinical trials that are ongoing around the world, we do produce medicine that is distributed and used in clinical trials. So there's a pretty strong partnership with our, so it's G-rated and P-rated for our research and development branches.
Thank you both for answering those. Alex, oh, where did that one go? Do you always have to wear PPE, or is that just because of COVID?
Yeah, we're wearing PPE with a hairnet, beard net, if you got facial hair, and like shoe covers. The COVID had brought medical masks, where we were required to wear medical masks on site and in the manufacturing floor. We call it the classified area. It's aseptic operations. Now we do not need to wear the mask inside that area. There is a part in the video from how it was made where they were wearing a special mask for when they were adding, I think it was the salt or something else into the tank. Since it was an open tank and there's risks of particulates entering, they had to wear a mask. So there are some areas that I'll wear a mask. We had another question about how do the drug products get transported to Hillsborough? And I work with the team who takes the tanks full of the frozen product. And we thought, well, when we add special tubing to that tank, I have to put on a special mask. So that way, when I open the port, I don't risk having anything enter into the tank.
Thank you for answering that, Alex. And to add to what Alex was saying, one of the, I guess, my personal favorite aspects of like safety measures that we take to making sure that the medicine that we produce is safe is that within the building there are multiple sections. There's the office section, there's the non-classified and then the classified, and even within the classified, where inside the machines where the vials get filled with product, that is the air in there. There's air being pumped, really clean air being pumped into there, so that chamber is at higher pressure than the surrounding room, and then that surrounding room is at higher pressure than the outside room. And so it's like cascading effect of pressure that keeps everything flowing out, and so nothing can flow in and like potentially contaminate anything. Question from, why did you choose this profession and how did you get to where you are today? Don, I know you'd kind of touched up on this earlier during the interactions.
I'll just say my part. I'd love to hear from Rina and Alex on this. But for me, when I think I was about 15. So I grew up in Senegal, and my grandma was pretty sick. And what I remember was how challenging it was for her to get the medicine that she needed. And, in my young mind, at least at the time, I thought that being a physician was, my way to, positively impact the world in that area and just make sure that people who needed medicine could get it. Obviously, I grew up and learned more around the role that biotechnology plays in this. And as Orlando pointed out, Genentech is the forefather of biotech, and really making biologics medicine to help patients live more fulfilling lives and longer. So in college, I interviewed with American company, and I was a technical fellow with them. And from there, I learned that there was a role for me to play in this area. I graduated by biomedical engineering, and as I say, over the years, just expanding my impact by seeing where else I can work. And I found a company that really sort of materialize the things that I value, both from a community and environmental impact, but as well, really putting patients first. Our slogan is, we doing now what patients need next. Really focusing on, Genentech doesn't just make products, and we also make sure patients can get it. We have an entire branch in Portland, Oregon, that is focused on ensuring patients can get the medicine they need without worrying about cost or insurance coverage. Right? It's called Access Solutions. So that's another branch that we will, less of us will really focus on patients. And here, those of us who are here as technicians and engineers working on the floor and making that happen is also important. Like one of our, when we ask about PPEs, when we ask about processes, and me as a validation engineer, the work that we do is really ensuring that we make quality product with uninterrupted supply so that patients can get better. And that's how I got into this work. Anything to add to that, Alex or Irina?
I'd say, a big part of what brought me to Genentech is really about the impact that the company makes to patients, to people, and to the environment. It really aligns with some of my own personal values, and I really love coming into work every day and just seeing the impact I'm making in some way to patients, to people. And it's almost like it doesn't matter what your role is at Genentech. I feel like everyone shares a lot of that same vision, regardless of what they're doing in the company, because it's really, it takes all of us. It takes all sorts of skill sets, all sorts of training and education. And I think there's a question in here of like, what level of training is required? Obviously a STEM background is helpful, but that's not the only way to get into Genentech, into this company. There's all sorts of career opportunities, and it takes a lot of people, a lot of smart, dedicated people to make this whole thing happen.
Thank you. Alex, do you want to share?
Yeah, I thought the partnerships that Genentech has is really helpful. I was able to join up with the local community college and get a certificate, and that was really helpful for me because I had I didn't have any science classes or math classes during college, and I was able to transition from my prior jobs and enter into the pharmaceuticals. And that's something that I really appreciate about Genentech is how they work with everyone to give everyone equal opportunities. And something else that Irina was talking about was how everyone's goal is pretty much the same. There's a lot of good stories here where people have an interest in the patient and they have a connection to the patient that our drug products help. And I've gotten to experience that connection as well. And it makes it really easy to enjoy work when we know that our drugs are helping people.
I agree with Alex and with Irina and with Don. What kind of set me on this path was in high school. I was in high school and very early college. I would volunteer in and I'm from Salem, and there was a free clinic there for people who didn't have insurance. And so moving to the US, that was one of the challenges that I saw my community face, was access to healthcare. And volunteering in the clinics kind of like made me want to like bring down that barrier, help bring down that barrier. But I knew I didn't want to be a physician. And then so I stumbled across the field of bioengineering, and I found it very interesting. What got me connected with Genentech was when they would come do recruiting or presentations on campus. It was one of the companies that really stood out to me about their mission. That was something that from the very beginning got me hooked in their, like, the work that they do. And from there, I just kept bugging Don until he hired me.
Yeah, I can share, I think that, so, I mean, we mentioned it over and over in terms of like Genentech really wanting to, have a positive impact in the community. But, I think biotech companies are not always, widely known. Like, we don't make, cool phones, right? That, we don't do direct to consumer advertising. For many of you, this is maybe the first time you heard about Genentech or the products that we make. Maybe so low at a Blazers game, but you don't see Genentech on TV a lot, right? And I think that's because our focus is on patients, right? We focus on making patients' lives better. However, certainly within the Oregon ecosystem, we're based out of San Francisco, but we're growing, tremendously in Oregon. We have 3 sites, right? Two sites here in Hillsborough and 1 in Portland. We reach in the community, we go and recruit, whether it's STEM or other, more liberal arts or business graduates and careers. So with a question from Zach, where, what experience is needed beforehand to meet the requirements for the positions that we hire here for, is that we hire in various areas, STEM being a particularly important one for the Hillsborough side, but Genentech is a company, a business, right? So we have 12,000 employees within Genentech, many of them in the Bay Area and Southern California, but we have, I believe, about 800 here in the Portland area, including contingents. And we hire early in career. We have an apprenticeship program that Alex mentioned. We bring in people, we train for the work, right? We work with incredibly precise equipment, very complex processes. But so one of the biggest investments that we have here at the site is training. So we go out and recruit really for people, who have a passion for this, who are willing to learn and able to teach it back. And then we invest heavily in ensuring that, people are able to they have all the tools and all the training necessary to do the job that they do. So I think there's a slide, Orlando, about some of the areas that we have here at the Hillsborough site, and maybe that'll give you an idea of what types of jobs that we hire for here at Genentech. I think it's slide 6, if you want to just zoom to it to show it to the audience. So we collected a few exercises just in case it came up in the questions. I think it's 26. I think Catherine asked the same question: which jobs is Genentech hiring for? Are there any entry-level positions? Yeah, so all these areas, filling, packaging, inspection, quality control, tank management, distribution. So we also are the North American Tank Management Center, which means that all those tanks that you saw in the video that get filled with drug substance, they get depleted, which means that at some point all that product goes into vials. Well, the tank is now empty and needs to be cleaned, sterilized, maintained before it's sent to another site to be filled with another product. So we maintain a fleet of about 1,700 Hastelloy cryo vessels, where the product is frozen before it comes to us, and then, as Alex described, it gets thawed and then transferred into a time pressure filling system where it gets filled into the vials. We also we package here at Genentech, so we package the products that we make, but we also package product coming from other sites. We have a site in Kaiserhaus, Germany, that we package for, and also Switzerland and in Mannheim, Germany, that we pack for. And they sent us naked vials. We pack and label them. So when you go to a physician, they pull out a vial from a box. There's also a physician that tells them how to use that vial and apply the product. So we do that here. And we also have a distribution center. We distribute all Roche drug product in North America and Florida here out of HDO. So products that are also made at other sites, including even Europe and Asia, are sent to Hillsborough before they are distributed to various hospitals and physician offices here in North America and Florida, Atlanta. We do have another distribution site that takes care of Eastern North America is what I meant to say, the other side of America, out of Kentucky. So that's the Kentucky Distribution Center. And quality control is a huge piece of what we do, right? Everything gets tested at various steps of the process. So we have a lot of technicians, and analysts in the lab that take samples, and whether it's the final product in the vial or it's like just the drug substance before it is actually put into the vials. We test those to make sure it's the right identity, has the right quality, it doesn't have any foreign material, and it will basically have the therapeutic effect that is prescribed for. Again, focusing on ensuring the patients get what they need and get better.
I'd like to add a little bit on to some of the other things that we offer as well. There's definitely this, the science is first and foremost, manufacturing process, but there's other roles too that enable that to happen. So I'm part of the facilities and engineering team as well. So there's an element of, hiring mechanics, hiring people that like that, working with their hands, having the mechanical aptitude to fix things, to work on our utility systems, to work on our HVAC systems. We hire electricians. We kind of work through those industries as well, because we need those people to, have our building operational to support that.
Is there a question we missed in the chat?
Yes, there is. Has there been any obstacles you have encountered, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I can answer that one quickly, which is I wanted to get into science, and I didn't have a college education in science. So I had to figure out really a program that would help that. And Genentech sponsors it over at the PCC school. So that was really easy for me. But it was a huge deal because I was calling and applying to different jobs, and they all wanted microbiology degrees or a biology degree or some sort of degree in one of the STEMs. And I was able to get the interview and get the job here by the program, and it only took a year.
Yeah, and what Alex is referring to is our apprenticeship program in partnership with the PCC Bioscience Technology program. It's a very good program.
If I can, I want to highlight a couple programs because I know there was in a jumping gear, but there were some questions around like entry-level internships. And yes, Genentech hires interns, they hire apprenticeships. They have a program out of Oregon State called the MECOP program that's with other companies, but we partner there as well to bring people in their junior and senior years in college. The internships as well are college level and beyond, as well as some other post-college programs, rotational programs called ORDP and PRDP, which is Rotational Development Program. So there are a lot of ways to get into Genentech as an entry level. Contracts are another way. We bring in a lot of people through contracts, and that's essentially a way. It's a extended interview, right? It's a trial period, and it's really a way to get your foot in the door, really make your name known, and just. If I can put in the chat a link to our careers page that also shows a little bit more about the opportunities that exist both at this site and throughout our whole network.
Another question is, and Alex, you kind of touched on this a little bit with how do the drugs get transported from the research and development site to Hillsborough plant? So from what I know, we have different size tanks, and some of them are specific for holding frozen drug product. And they come frozen like minus, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's like minus 40 degrees Celsius. So they're really cold. And then when they get here, they're stored in the same condition. We have a warehouse. And then when they're ready to use, warehouse passes them over to Alex's team, where they're the ones that thaw it. And then they, from there, it gets hooked up into our systems, and it eventually makes its way down to the vials.
And these frozen tanks are basically, they're designed and qualified to maintain the drug product in, what's it called, in a non-product impacting state, right? So that it can be stored for a long time. So, we ship them in these containers, they call RKN tanks, that are fitted into planes or trucks. And so if it's coming from California, it can be transported in a refrigerated truck or frozen truck and comes to us, or is shipped via air freight. And yeah, we use we have a freeze and thaw skid. Here, speaking of the importance of the equipment that we use, right, which utilizes silicon cooled at really low temperature, like minus 50 degrees, or at ambient temperatures, to either thaw or freeze. So we also have the capability of refreezing that same material in order to store it and use it at a later time, so that we don't have to fill all of it immediately. So we also have nitrogen in our utilities. We also have something called water for injection, which is essentially ultra purified water. And we have process wastewater systems. We have sterile air. We have a lot of really cool tech and utilities that we use to actually do the process.
When we ask questions.
With that, I know that we are coming up on the hour. So does anybody have any last minute questions or any last minute things you want to say?
Yeah, I think a few of the students hopped out because they had to head to class. It's right at the hour. So I want to say thank you guys for presenting today. I know I have a few students who emailed me before this presentation, and they're like, are you guys going to be recording this video? I want to watch it later, but I can't miss class. So we have quite a few students who are interested in watching this later too.
Sweet. I'll also drop the link to the Genentechs YouTube page. There's some pretty interesting videos there in case anybody wants to take a look at those. And like Don said, feel free to reach out to us and just ask any questions.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and stop the recording.